This is the MeatEater podcast coming at you shirtless, severely bug-bitten, and in my case, underwearless.
We hunt the MeatEater podcast.
You can't predict anything.
The MeatEater podcast is brought to you by First Light. Whether you're checking trail cams, hanging deer stands, or scouting for elk, First Light has performance apparel to support every hunter in every environment. Check it out at firstlight.com. FIRSTLITE.com. Corinne, you know how a lot of times we come up with what the show is going to be called, but then we forget and it's called something different?
That doesn't really happen.
I feel like it does. I feel like a lot of times I'll be like, hey, let's call the show this, and it winds up not being called that.
Arguable. But okay. I'll give it to you.
Hind, Titty should be this episode. No one's going to know why for now, but later they'll know.
Okay.
Tommy knows what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Tommy knows exactly what I'm talking about. We're recording today from the flagship First Light store in Haley, Idaho. What is that, you might ask? It's the flagship First Light store in Haley, Idaho. If you want to find the best hunting gear on the planet, you come into this store and get it. And to give you a real virtual experience of what it's like, we have today Keith Anspatch. Should be Anspatch.
Yep.
But it's not.
We all agree. It's
Anspatch and Dom Cooper. And between you guys, can you quickly calculate, someone walks in the door, what's the likelihood they'll encounter one or both of you?
I would say 70%. I live in here, so probably even more than that. Dom's in here a lot, though. So
there's like a likelihood that you would come in and they would find you guys. So after this, they'll be comfortable coming in knowing who they're looking for.
Just give me a high five. I'm here every day.
Okay. Now, you'll know because one of them has an insane mullet.
I've been working on it a while, man.
And one of them's Australian.
Sure am. G'day.
So we had another Australian on recently. You guys have been making a strong showing.
Yep, we're an interesting breed of people.
Great. This other Australian is a PH in Africa, and you're here, and so we're catching them as they kind of get spun off into the broader outside world.
Yeah. Also
joined by Tommy Eidson, known as the Blue Collar Scholar, always bragging up how good he does on MeatEater trivia. He came down, lost.
Then the Pausegate scandal broke.
What was that?
The Blue Collar Pauser is my new nickname at work.
Oh, and then we caught wind that the reason he performs well in private is he pauses the show.
Well, I'm gonna let you finish. Go ahead.
Well,
you want me to?
Pause the show.
I said,
and think about it longer, which is like, no kidding, you're gonna win. If I could pause it for a couple days,
and
be like, well,
I was actually, it was more like 3 or 4 days.
You ever do a little research while it's paused?
No, I work in a fast paced environment, and I was like, but at the same time, I could pause the game, continue with my job while I was communicating with somebody at work. And not miss there's times where I don't have time to stop even for the 5 seconds and write my answer down. Mm-hmm. So it's like, but then I got to thinking about it, and it gave me a little bit. I thought, does it give me a competitive advantage? And so then I said something to Joey, one of the guys on the rodeo team, and I even texted you, and you're like, "Oh, you cheater!"
Yeah.
That's what he sounds like.
Yeah.
So
Pausegate.
Tommy, here's why here's why the show's going to be called Hind Titty. Tommy, recently, Doug, my buddy Bubbly Doug Duran, sends me a screenshot of an exchange he has with Tommy. Tommy has this to say to Doug. Quick cow question. If you're milking a cow and it's a race, which udder or nipple are you going for? Is there something in particular I should be looking for in an udder? We're going to dive into all that.
Let's dive into it.
In due time, because I've pointed out a couple times, we talked about it a lot. We came out with the shirt. We came out with the Wild Cow Milking T-shirt.
Correct.
Because we dug deep here. We take our spending seriously. We dug deep and sponsored Tommy's Wild Cow Milk and Rodeo team for $300.
Mm-hmm.
And he sent me. I shouldn't say this because people are going to start pilfering my mailbox.
I wouldn't say it. You could say it.
Tommy sent me the winnings in cash, rolled up in a paper in an
Shouldn't
envelope.
you do that? You shouldn't do that?
No, that's fine.
Oh.
So now they're just sitting on my desk like an envelope of cash that I need to go and find some way to integrate into. I'm going to hand it off to somebody.
I figured that's what
I
I
liked it
did.
because I like to feel that, man.
Yeah.
I like to feel that.
It's a good feeling when that judge hands you that wad of cash. You're like, there's a picture somewhere of me. Yeah.
How many tournaments you guys done?
That would be the third one, I think. This is our second year.
No. I mean, how many rodeos you participated in so far this year?
I think that's the third one.
Okay.
Oh, this year?
Yeah.
We only do 2 a year.
You do 2 a year.
Yep.
When's the next one?
September.
Oh, I knew there was more to
Yeah.
come.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So we recouped some of our money, and the money's going into the Land Access Initiative, MeatEater's
Right.
Land Access Initiative, which we need to do. We're going to get heavy duty on raising some money for that initiative coming up. So we're going to get into because we had a lot of questions. A lot of questions came in about, I don't understand how that's a thing.
What? Wild cow milking?
Wild cow milking and rodeos.
Oh,
I mean, people
I'll
kind of
explain
get it like bull riding. They're like, yeah, I've been exposed to that. That resonates with me. Team roping. People will be like, yeah, I've seen that around.
Right.
Wild cow milking. They don't know what you're talking about.
Right. It's like most rodeo events have a where they originated. You have like tie down roping, calf roping, where you tie down your calf and you got to go back to your saddlebags and grab your whatever shots, go up, but you had to make sure he was stayed tied. That's why the time is set for, I think it's 5 or 6 seconds. Your cow's got to stay tied while he's down. All these events have like beginnings, like where they began from.
No, we'll get into the history.
Yeah.
We're gonna do that pretty soon.
Yeah.
And then we're also joining us here in the First Light store, Zeb Hogan. I have 2 ways to describe you, and they seem contradictory. One is host of Nat Geo's Monster Fish Show, or the United Nations Convention on Migratory Species scientific counselor for fish. Just seems different. I would lean into the latter one because it sounds like really the guy you'd want to talk to if you want to talk about fish.
Fair enough.
And then you're also author of Chasing Giants in Search of the World's Largest Freshwater Fish, which is available now, correct?
Published last month, yep.
Published last month. And in it, and I watched some things Corinne sent me, and what really hooked me on talking to you is the question of why is the question, what is the world's largest freshwater fish? Why it takes a book to not quite answer that question. It's a rich question. And we're going to get in a little bit into the richness of that question, which is definitions stacked on top of definitions. And also a kind of that a lot of these fish that might be contenders are in an alarming state population-wise.
Yeah.
It seems like the modern world is not friendly to huge freshwater fish. So we're going to spend time on that. But first off, I want to jump back into what happens when you walk into the First Light store. So what happens when you walk into the First Light store? I come in and I say, hi. Then what'll happen?
Man, the First Light store is such an experience. The first thing I usually want to let people do is just kind of take a grasp of what they're walking into. It's really cool. You get the whole first line product. Not anywhere in the world where you can see this. So when you walk in here, we've got a huge line. Even the First Light employees walk in, they're like, I didn't know we sold this much stuff.
Oh, yeah. Everybody I've been in here with is like, God, I didn't know that this was all here.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Between the waterfowl, the ladies line, all our Western big game, huge amount of product we can point a customer towards. So it's really cool. What I really like at the store is the ability to like see that customer, talk to the customer, and like figure out what they want to do in the world. Like we've got a ton of people that are just doing elk hunts in Idaho, but then we get we've had people from every state in the country at this stage.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
Yep.
cool.
So it's really cool. We help out people that are doing their first Africa trips. We've got people going down to Mexico for mule deer. We've got all the sorts of waterfowl hunters, bear hunters this spring. We're all over in the store. So it's really cool to live vicariously through them and see what they're wanting to do, and then to dial in what gear exactly they want. Super fun.
Yeah. Where were you born? Where were you brought up?
I was born in Colorado, but I've been an Idaho boy now for most of my life. So I grew up in Idaho Falls for the most part. Went to school up at University of Idaho up in Moscow, and I've been in the Wood River Valley now for about 18 years.
Oh, long time.
Yeah, I managed a store up in Ketchum, a backpacking store, an outdoor store for a long time, just a block away from the old First Light headquarters. So I was there from the beginning with friends with all of that crew and watched the brand grow. And then when they came up with the idea of this store, it was something I could not say no to. It's too cool not to work here.
How many people come in and they don't really know what they're walking into, and how many people come in knowing what they're up to?
I'd say a majority of the people come to check out the store. This is a destination store. People do trips around the store.
Yeah.
So, but then we definitely have people that walk in here and they do like 2 or 3 steps and they go, it's a lot of camo in here, and you can see them just do a reverse and walk out. It's just not the right store for them.
Yeah, it wasn't what they were looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the majority of people are so stoked to come check out the store.
Yeah. And Dom, walk me through how did you come to? What's the Australia to Haley path, to typical Australia to Haley path?
Yeah, Steve, I was always an outdoors bloke, but I came over to America when I was 14, and kid reading a lot of Rourke and Hemingway. I thought, I grew up fishing, and hunting was the next step, as it often so is.
Uh-huh.
And I came over when I was 14, and I went on a pheasant hunt and a coyote hunt, and it was probably the most miserable experience ever.
Like, you came over as a visitor?
Came over as a visitor at the time, yes. I had an old Model 21 16 gauge that someone lent me, and I went on this pheasant hunt, and there was no dog or anything, and it was on BLM land in southern Idaho, and I think we got one bird up all day, and I didn't have the gear at all, and I actually had frost nip on my hands, and the one bird that flew up, I didn't even pull the trigger on because I couldn't work the safety on that little Model 21.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I was like, man, that was a miserable experience. But, going back to guys like, Teddy Roosevelt talking about this strenuous life, I was like, man, this really sucked, but I had a lot of fun. What is it in me that really enjoyed this? And ever since then, I was just absolutely obsessed with Western hunting. So every chance I got, every holiday, I'd come over to Idaho and hunt. I nearly got kicked out of college twice because I was trying to do that.
What, were you hunting in Australia too?
A little bit. So I'm from Queensland, and as a lot of Queenslanders and Australians listening to this know that Queensland does not define any game species of our game. So we have quite a robust population of red deer and fallow deer and chital deer and pigs, but they're not defined as game by the state. They're defined as pests. So it's a lot of control rather so than managing them as an actual asset to the people. So I did a bunch of that over there, a lot of bow hunting, but it just never did it to me in the way that Idaho manages game and the relationship with public lands here. So I knew it as soon as I finished my education there and finished my time, I wanted to move over to the west.
Were you involved in some kind of ranching type, rodeo type activities over there?
Yeah, so I always had a bit of a quest for adventure. So my mate and I basically worked out like what weeks we needed to be at college and which we didn't, so that we could just scrape behind pass because we wanted to cowboy and hunt. Uh-huh. And that was basically our life over there. And Mum and Dad weren't too fond of it at the time, but they understand it now. And I was very lucky. My old man and my sister actually came out last year, and we came on a hunt with me for the first time. And we were lucky enough to harvest an elk together and work our butts off for it and pack it out. And it was a very, very, very special experience.
You guys married?
No, this guy is.
We've been married for a long time.
You're not married? You've been married a long time?
15, 16 years.
His wife's actually
Really?
his wife's a hairdresser, and one of the most highly acclaimed hairdressers in the valley.
I'd never guessed.
So you got like a revolt going against your wife.
She talks a big game how she doesn't like it, but she gets a glass of wine in
likes
here and starts start
She
splitting
wants to
her
run.
hair.
She wants to run her fingers
yeah.
through the back of your hair.
It's got the Kavorka, man. You can't
Don't
fight
steal
that.
my.
All right, so there you have it. So if you wind up anywhere in the vicinity, come down to our flagship First Light store. Only place on the planet right now where you can walk in and touch stuff.
Yeah,
It's a pretty neat experience.
yeah, a couple of weird looking dudes. Get some great product in your hands.
Yeah, but now they know. Now they know. Like it's like a couple of alarming looking fellas, but deep down, a couple hearts of gold.
I wouldn't go that far.
We like to hunt, man. That's the most important part.
Yeah,
Like,
well, if
everybody.
you can speak to the equipment, that's great, man.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, well, thank you, man. Thanks for letting us be down here too, because we had to lock the doors.
Oh, absolutely. No, this is a really cool experience. So it's awesome having you guys here.
I'll point out that there was a person out there that wanted to come in who had a very set. She knew exactly what she wanted.
Absolutely.
That was an educated customer coming in.
We get a lot of those.
Okay.
Definitely a lot of people. They know exactly what they want to put their hands on. They just want to try it on, see what they need. A lot of times we can close that sale right here.
Yeah,
She wasn't here to run her fingers through your hair. She was here to make a purchase.
Well, you never know, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right, Tommy. Thanks for coming down.
Yeah.
Now, help enlighten people about the rodeo event called what? Tell me what it's called. Just I want to make sure I got it right.
Technically, our event is called shoot cow milking.
Oh,
Shoot cows. Basically, you want me to just start like the rules?
I want to know the history. I want soup to nuts.
As I understand it, the history is like basically you're loading cows like with manpower instead of with horsepower. And, basically the way that's kind of the crux or the beginning of where that rodeo event started. As I understand it, how it works is your basic rodeo arena, your basic oval. One side is almost always grandstands. The other side is your bucking chutes and where all your rough stock is.
Yep.
Your bulls, horses, bucking horses, whatever. You have, in most standard rodeo arenas, you have 6 bucking chutes, 3 and 3 with a gap in the middle. May or may not be a gap in the middle. Wild cow milking, what they do is it's a 3-man team. You have 3 positions on that team. You have a milker, a mugger, and an anchor. Anchor is kind of self-explanatory. Usually it's your biggest guy on the team. And he's a guy that usually is in charge of not letting go of that rope in case there's catastrophe. Like 2 guys go down or 1 guy goes down. The big guy can usually just set down bend his knees and squat down and stop a cow or ski around or get drug around.
Yep.
But basically, the mugger's job is to stop that cow. At some point. We'll get to that in a second. The milker's job is pretty self-explanatory. His job is to milk it. They run 6 cows, wild heifers, into the bucking chutes. Usually there's an event of some kind going on, a drill team or a clown show going on about that time, so that each team draws a number out of a hat, 1 through 6. Whatever number you draw number 3. That's your cow, and that's your shoot 3. You take a rope halter. Every team is issued a rope halter and a clear beer bottle, like a Corona bottle. Yeah, they're not making it easy on you. Somebody's got to get in the chute with the cow, put the rope halter on it, and usually you wait for the event to end. They'll go through and announce everybody's sponsors.
But presumably they've checked to see if the cow's lactating.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
but that's something too. Is usual. Sometimes you do get one that's not nearly as moist as the rest of them.
Sure,
you get a little
yeah.
dry one once in a while. Hence my question to Bubbly Doug. I want every upper hand I can get.
Yep.
So
So you went straight to a
I
milking
went straight
man.
to the man.
Yeah.
But then the buzzer goes off, and all 6 chutes all 6 guys open their chutes, and 6 cows come bulldozing out of there, and it's your job to stop them and not get run over.
And there's 18 people in the arena.
Correct. There's the rules of the event are you cannot touch that cow with your hands until she crosses a chalk line about 25 feet out in the arena. You can hold on to that rope, but you cannot physically touch that cow.
Okay.
Put your hands on that cow. As soon as she crosses the plane of that chalk line, boy, she's fair game. And usually the go-to move is just wrap her up in a headlock and just hang on, man. Just don't let go.
Okay.
But there's a lot going on there too, because your anchor is usually once somebody gets a hold of her, an anchor will usually try to either stabilize her back end so she's not pivoting around in a circle, because a milker's not going to be able to get her. But a good milker can milk her if she's moving, but not at a dead run.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So do you try to snake that teat right down into that beer
Nope.
bottle?
No.
You try to squirt it into
Just
there.
squirt it in there. You need one good squirt. The last rule of it is
One good squirt.
You need one good squirt. Yeah.
You don't got to fill the bottle?
No. The rule is that you go out once you
How
get
is
the
that
cow.
defined? We just had it. I'll point out. We just had where we did a deep dive on competition regulations
I was
about a
present.
fish
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. One good squirt isn't going to cut it for me.
No, it's not
No.
going to cut it for you.
Who defines a good squirt?
The judges.
Oh.
Because once the milker yells the word milk, it's the mugger's position to pull the halter, because the milker has to run across.
Back up.
Okay,
It runs out. A guy's holding the rope.
correct.
Crosses the plane.
Somebody stops her.
Okay. Someone grabs it.
Yep.
And someone tries to stabilize it. The
Mhm.
milker goes in with the bottle.
Yep.
Okay.
You get some milk. The rules are that you need one drop to come out of that bottle in 5 seconds of it being upside down. But you got to have the halter with you
That's what I was looking for.
and sprint all the way across the arena to in front of the grandstands where there's a judge standing there with a flag and a rope. When you step
That's
into that
all you
ring,
got to get.
when you step into that ring, she'll throw a flag and say time. You got to turn that bottle upside down, and you got 5 seconds from that moment for one drop to run
Produce a drip.
out. One drop.
How here's the thing I've struggled with. How if you put mutton busting, okay, picture a dial,
Yeah.
and mutton busting is here,
Okay.
and bull riding is here.
Okay.
Where does this fit?
About dead center. About dead center. Due north. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like it's just like a thing where like dudes that like me, I'm getting on and into my mid 40s.
Okay.
And my only good excuse is that, man, I just miss some good old grr conflict.
Got it.
You can't get away with ragged on dudes in public anymore. You gotta get into a rodeo arena and get
times
some
are changing
aggression
for
out.
that, man. Yeah. You just
you
can't
got a
be-
boss at work.
Back,
that's-
when I was a boy, you just went up and just beat somebody up.
me too.
You felt
and it's
like
like
it.
guys,
Now everybody's all touchy.
you got a boss at work that's real. He likes to give you his business. You know what I mean? And the guy at the gas station, I'm right, Zeb. The guy at the gas station that gave you a ration of it last week, and you let it go. But you can let all that grr out in the rodeo arena. What are you laughing at, Crane? It's true.
I hear
It's
you,
so
man.
true, man.
So that's all you're looking for.
And a buckle. I want first place, of course. I'm a competitive dude. I want to win.
Yeah.
Oh,
And you want there to be cold hard cash at the end of it.
right. Yeah.
And a sweet T-shirt.
And a sweet T-shirt.
How did you first become aware of it?
A good friend of mine from high school, and they run in. We compete against them in that rodeo twice a season, and they run in other ones. And we've been buddies since high school. I've seen him do it at the rodeo, and I ran into him out to dinner one night at a little kind of local pub, water and hole place, and I'm like, "You ever get down a man? I'll jump in there. You need a man on the team." I was like, "If you get down two, I might know somebody else that's interested." He's like, "You ought to just start your own team. You only need one more." Like, you know what, Josh? Good point.
Yeah.
And now, I'm gonna beat him for a buckle. I beat him this week, this last one.
You did.
Oh yeah.
You know that joke where you say that you're milking a cow? My dad did this to me. And you say, "Hey, did you know there's always a star on the end of a cow's teat?" And you go to look, and then you whoosh, right in the face.
No, I never got that.
That's a good joke. Keep in mind.
That is a good joke.
My old man, he had a buddy. So he had a buddy that ran a dairy place. And my old man would go down there, and the way I remember, man, he'd always be coming back with that milk, the non-pasteurized milk.
Sure.
And like in my head, I'm sure it wasn't true, but in my head, I remember that there was grass.
Oh,
floating
it's sawdust,
in there.
and there's like moss in there.
And
There's all kinds of stuff in
we
there.
hated it, man. And we would call it cow's milk. And he'd be like, "The hell you think all the other milk is?" We're like, "No, not cow's milk."
Yeah.
it'd be all layered out in the fridge.
Yeah.
Like I said, I remember it with like chunks of grass in there. And we did not like that milk. But I had some of it recently at my buddy's dairy place where it's super chilled. It goes into that it's like 33 to 32.1 degrees or whatever. Man, it is good, dude.
Yeah.
But when I was a little kid, I was deathly afraid of that milk.
Yeah.
You ever take a big swig after that competition?
No, it's usually reserved for in front of the judges, but I'd be game.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know when someone asks a question and they're sort of like acting like they're asking a hypothetical question, but you realize they're actually asking a question?
Yeah.
It'd be like one of those questions. It's like, well, let's just say, okay, this guy writes in this big long letter about recovering correct me if I get some of this wrong. It's a long letter. Basically, a doe gets killed and they wind up with a fawn.
Uh-huh.
And say also that his wife is producing someone in the family is producing way more milk than their kid can drink. Like I remember when my wife, she'd have so much, she'd be feeding the baby and filling the freezer with frozen bags of milk.
Yeah.
So he's like, let's just say, would that be good milk for that baby fawn? Right? Am I getting this more or less correct?
Indeed.
You lost me. His wife's milk?
Huh?
Oh, okay. Now you got me back.
Yeah. And I don't know what to write to him.
Colostrum.
We haven't replied.
Scroll down.
Oh.
Because we have an answer. Or not a real answer.
Oh, Heffelfinger weighed in on it.
Oh, he's the man for the question.
Well, this just came up, and I'm going to bring it up again. Heffelfinger brought up a great point, and I feel like raising it twice, because how throughout your entire life you have been told if you touch a fawn, its mother will abandon it. Like, how many times have you heard that growing up?
Including birds, too? You were always told to never touch birds either.
Heffelfinger brings up a great point where he's like, Heffelfinger's like, all the collaring research that is done on fawns, right? They net them, tranquilize them, whatever, handle them, draw blood, weigh them. If what you've been told your whole life was true, all of that would be in vain, because those fawns would all be dead, but they're not.
That's a good point.
When you go to a bear den and they work up bears in a bear den,
Sure.
What are they doing?
Handling all of them, everything.
They got them inside their coat.
Yeah.
I see where they got them in their coat to warm them up. But then on the same hand, you're told your whole life, the minute you touch it, it will be abandoned. Heffelfinger's first point, the doe wasn't dead. Heffelfinger's first point, the fawn is not abandoned. 100% sure of that. Does spend almost zero time within sight of the fawn, only to nurse, and then they leave them for many more hours. My son had a newborn fawn in his yard last week against the backyard fence in Texas, and my brother did the week before in Wisconsin. It happens all the time, and they are not abandoned. Stepping away from Heffelfinger for a minute to remind bear hunters of something. I have watched, like, almost anywhere you go, pretty much anywhere you go, anywhere you go in the lower 48, anywhere you go on 80s, I don't know, 90% of Alaska, you're not allowed, during black bear season, you're not allowed to kill a sow with cubs. Most people, and granted you don't get a lot of opportunities, most people sight check it. They're like, is it got a cub? Nope. But likewise, in the early spring, on their first, so those babies are born, right? They're born in February, January, and they come out. And that early spring, when they come out, she probably has that thing hidden. I have watched sows have on an avalanche slide. I've watched sows put their cubs in the brush and go out and feed in that avalanche slide for 30 minutes and go back in and check on that cub and go back out into the avalanche slide. And you would, if you were just watching her, you would be like, oh, she doesn't have a cub.
Really?
Well, there's your argument for bear baiting. Right there.
There you go. Look at that. Look how he's leveraging this for political purposes.
Mate, don't get me started. we want to protect that in this state. So
Yeah. Is it at risk?
I think it's at risk everywhere.
Sure it is.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You ever get Clay Newcomb started on that subject?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Last year, big time.
I was talking to Clay this week about bear hunting. We shot a bear on Wednesday and couldn't find it. I heard it death moan right before dark, and I could not find it. And messaged him. He's like, "Oh yeah, that bear's dead somewhere right in the timber." And got in there that morning with the dog and found it right away.
Oh,
So,
great.
yeah, it's cool.
Still good?
It was good.
Yeah. Back to Heffelfinger. The notion that human scent will cause the mother to abandon it is an old wives' tale perpetuated by biologists to keep people from touching newborn fawns. Researchers handle fawns all the time, and although they use gloves to minimize scent transfer, the mother does not abandon the fawns. The farmer anecdote is more proof of that. Maternal instinct is strong. Number 3. Ready, Tommy?
I'm ready.
Human breast milk is better than whole milk from a cow. But again, see number 1 above. Don't touch the fawn. I'm sure a fawn would gain weight nicely on human breast milk, but a better use for all that breast milk is to soak dove breasts in it before wrapping and baking and grilling. He says that's why they call it breast milk.
Right away.
I like Jim.
Oh, dude, he's the funniest guy in the world, man. He's the funniest guy in the world. So, anything more you'd like to add about your competition? Because I got another question I want to pursue with you.
Huh? We're coming for buckles in September.
Are you?
Oh yeah, me and the rest of the team, Joe Weed, Steve Mabry, we're coming.
And what's the buckle say on it?
Usually, I think they say shoot cow milker or champion.
Yeah, but you rest your arm on that buckle.
Oh yeah.
And then here's my other question for you while I got you here. Can you give me a layman like a Joe Blow, Washington perspective on what's going on with your guys' game commission in Washington?
Funny you ask.
Because can I give you further endorsement?
Please.
Tommy is the kind of hunter and fisherman who, instead of just sitting around complaining, follows and is involved in his state's wildlife management.
Yeah,
you keep yourself educated.
I as best I can. You said it best when you said layman's, because there's a lot. I'm very trusting, and that's probably a problem given the current state of our commission. Our commission has been a lot of guys that use the word compromised, and a lot of guys use the words infiltrated. But there's definitely some red flags going up about what's going on in our commission.
You guys have a governor-appointed game commission of how many folk?
9 folks.
Okay, I have 9 folk.
That way there can never be a split, Typically it's X amount, or it's so many from the eastern side of the state and so many from the western side of the state. I think that is that way because the western side of the state tends to stand in a different place than the eastern side of the state as far as politics.
Yeah.
And it makes it in the past it's made
Here's
a
good way to
balance.
remember it. If you looked at it on a map and you imagine it split apart and the parts fell, the side that would fall to the right leans to the right.
That's right. Yeah.
That's a great way to remember. I'm never going to forget that.
That is a good way to look. That is
the side that falls to the left.
Right.
Okay.
But there's some serious red flags and question marks being raised in Washington's game commission as far as decision making, totally ignoring the biologists that are paid to do the studies they do to come to the facts we do. We lost our spring bear season. You know? But we don't, and it's because interest groups, people that love animals, don't want other people that love animals killing animals.
Yeah.
Is basically what it's come down
and
to.
The approach they've taken is historically those game commissions have been populated by people with skin in the game. I didn't mean that. I don't even know if that's a pun.
I think I know what you mean. Yeah.
People from fisheries,
Sure.
outfitters, right?
Right.
It's been people
Guides,
who have generally
sure.
it's been people who come from varying perspectives that would be in support of the general idea of the North American model of wildlife conservation, meaning that we have a renewable resource. that wildlife is a citizen-owned, renewable resource held in trust by an agency that assesses and allocates the resource in a democratic fashion with an eye toward people utilizing it but not damaging it in the long term.
Right.
And the new trend there is to be like, well, there should be people on the Game Commission who are opposed to hunting. There should be animal rights people on the Game Commission. There should be zookeepers on the Game Commission.
Correct. And where we're at now is that there's a new draft policy, and I think there's some litigation that's been done or taken action against them as a rebuttal to this, to completely basically rewrite the goal for Department of Fish and Wildlife's commission in and of itself. It's unfortunate. And look, I'm not the best at when it comes to complaining about things. I'm just not. I'll just find a way to do what I want to do in a manner. But so maybe I'm not the best spokesman. It's unfortunate that now we don't have the luxury as sportsmen in Washington to sit around on our laurels and just complain about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as I hear it from somebody that I know for a fact has never sent an email to the commission, has never, done the homework or cited a study that it adds to the fact that we're trying to work under the North American Model of Wildlife Management. Why are we going away from this?
Yep.
Because that's what we're doing. I shut down and we're done. We don't have the luxury of it anymore. We have to be involved in Washington. We all have to.
Yeah.
And there's no more finger pointing, all the tribes took them all, or all the fly fishermen are getting the best water. We all have to get enough of that shit. We all got to come together.
Mm-hmm.
That's enough of it,
Well, I've talked a bunch. I'm a believer in slippery slopes. A lot of people aren't, but I think there are. I think wildlife management that there is a slippery slope. There's a playbook that it goes by. You're generally going to go after, if you go and poll. There's some recent polling stuff. Recently, some polling data that if you phrase it a certain way, over 80% of Americans support regulated. Depending on how you phrase it, you can get over 80% of Americans, or maybe it's 78 right now, support regulated hunting and fishing. The minute you put specificity, it goes down. So I say, do you support scientific-based regulated hunting and fishing? You'd be like, well, of course. And I'd be like, do you support someone using a dog to hunt?
Oh,
well, I don't know about that. Right. Do you support them using a gun? I don't know about that. Right. So it starts, the specifics peel away. Right. The playbook in attacking hunting and fishing is to peel out the easy parts. Meaning you would never start a group that was out in front of Whole Foods collecting signatures to ban hunting and fishing in Washington State. That'd be a fool's errand. Instead, you'd go and be like, okay, we're going to go after spring bear season because there's the issue of cubs. We're going to go after using dogs because there's in my view, completely bogus argument of fair chase. We're going to go after, and then it'll be anything with dogs. We're going to go after steel traps followed by conibears and snares. We're going to go, right? And you slowly dismantle it.
Sure, it's death by a thousand cuts.
If you understood, if you went and looked at what the people driving that's private conversations are, their private conversations aren't that they have a problem with the particulars. The private conversation is that they have a problem with the whole thing, but this is the most productive way to go after it. I think too many people that would articulate a support for hunters and anglers would think that they're never going to get that as they whittle away, they're never going to get to the stuff I like. Right? I mean, you're like an upland bird hunter. You'd be saying to yourself, oh yeah, but they're never going to come around for me, so I'm not going to get involved because they're never going to get to me.
That's exactly true. Yeah.
People think that way.
Yeah.
But I think that if you look at, I think that if you do a case study of some issues in Washington, You do a case study of some issues in California. I think that most anybody that does any extractive use of renewable natural resources like wildlife resources would at some point be like, man, I probably should start paying attention to this.
Yeah. It's Monday mornings have become my mornings for what I call hate mail. It's not because I'm sending off nasty messages. It's because I hate the fact that I have to sit down and spend 20 minutes on my Monday mornings sending off these emails to these wildlife commissions about this topic. The only thing we can do, man, is just get involved. You have to send off you have to do it. We have to do it in Washington anymore because they're going to come. I mean, predators are up next. Commissioner Baker has talked about it. I hate the name drop, but it's true. Has talked about wanting to do away with coyote hunting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, back last spring when we were having the spring bear discussion, they wanted to do away with any and all spring hunting.
Yeah, and then
turkeys.
Yeah,
like and then when that was brought up, that I'm not going to name who in question brought that up, but they didn't even know turkeys were hunted in the spring. That's how far out of a square we have. We're trying to fit a square through a round hole in the block box.
Yeah,
these people. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's just
what's your guys' governor's stance been on this?
He's pretty silent on it, and he's the one to put. Yeah, as best I can understand, I think he's included in the litigation. I don't know. It's
like in the Constitution, they say like the rules to be president. Like you got to be whatever 40.
Sure. Yeah.
You got to be born here and all.
Born
that.
in America. Yeah.
They should be that you got to hunt and fish.
I agree. If you're going to make rules on it, you should have to do it.
Yeah, and then you wouldn't have to worry about all this garbage.
I agree.
Thank you, Tommy.
You're welcome.
You got anything more you want to add? How much money could you win if you did the best? If you did what's the possible winnings for the next rodeo?
Best?
Yeah, how much money was in that envelope you already sent me?
I'm not gonna say. More than $150, less than $300.
So when it's all said and done, will we have made money or lost money?
You'll make money. You'll make a little money.
Good, man.
I think
don't want any kind of pencil pushers.
No. The very high end of it. I think the very high end of it. I think we're looking at least $600.
Oh,
it's a 2-day thing.
You're gonna have people lining up to invest in you, man.
Good.
If it's $300 to get in, you can double your money. You can't do that on the stock market.
I gave you that offer. That offer doesn't stand for everybody else. Yeah, sponsorship changes. I might start keeping some of the money. We'll see.
All right, Tommy, stay tuned because you're gonna have a lot to say about this about this question. Zeb Hogan, host of Nat Geo's Monster Fish, author of Chasing Giants in Search of the World's Largest Freshwater Fish, and United Nations Convention on Migratory Species Scientific Counselor for Fish. Who came up with that title? Did you make that title up?
No, they did.
It's a hell of a title. You would be the UNCOMSSCFF.
Yeah, that's the only United Nations group I've ever been involved with, but there are a lot of names like that.
Yeah, got it. So what? I know you can't answer this. We can't answer this, but if I come to you and I say, "Hey, man, what is the world's biggest freshwater fish?" Tell me all of the hemming and hawing that needs to go into that answer.
Yeah, so that's how this all started.
Yeah,
I was working in Thailand, 2005. Did my PhD there.
On what?
On migratory fish, catfish of the Mekong River. Yeah, looking at the impact of dams on migratory fish. Most fish are migratory in the Mekong, so they're migrating like salmon.
And so they're moving for what purpose?
For spawning. Yeah.
Okay.
And also, so the Mekong, there's a huge flood pulse. So water comes up, increases tenfold in the rainy season from the dry season.
Oh.
And the fish, they spawn. Sturgeon will do the same thing, but they'll spawn during the floods, and all those fish get dispersed downstream.
They spawn up high.
Yeah, they spawn not necessarily in the headwaters, but like in the upstream spawning areas.
Got it.
And then the fish all go in the floodplain.
Tributaries or in the Mekong River?
In the Mekong. Or there's like 1,000 species of fish in the Mekong, so they...
Are there really?
Yeah, so they do everything, but like a couple hundred...
That river's got 1,000 species of fish.
Yeah. So more species in the Mekong than there are in the United States.
What?
Yeah. It's the second most diverse. The Amazon has over 4,000 species.
Huh. That's unbelievable, man.
Big tropical rivers.
Yeah.
Have a lot of different kinds of fish and a lot of big fish.
Okay.
So that's how I got involved. I was doing my PhD there, working with local fishermen. The fishermen that I was working with caught a 646-pound catfish.
And you saw it.
This is how I first got involved. So when I was doing my PhD in 1997, I saw a fisherman catch one of those fish for the first time. And I had no idea that fish got that big in freshwater. Like you see something that big, 400, 500 pounds. The one I saw was like 500 pounds. I've seen many since then, but the first one I saw was big.
And this is hook and line or a net?
Net.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that's
just making a mess out of that net.
It's a big net.
Oh, it is?
It's just the mesh is like that. It's just
so they're after big fish.
Only designed for that fish.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So it's a traditional, they've been fishing that way forever. It's only during that few weeks, only using that kind of net.
Got it.
Specifically catching that,
and they're
that
after
fish.
hogs. They're after giants.
Yeah. And there's a ceremony associated with it.
Really?
Yeah.
And they're doing it for commercial purposes? Like they're selling fish?
They sell it,
Yeah.
but they only catch, the whole time I've been working with them, they probably caught 10 of them. So it's not like you're not going to make a lot of money.
Got it.
So the first time I saw it was in 1997. This is right up in the Golden Triangle area, right where Thailand, Laos, and Myanmar meet. So way up in the northern part of Thailand. First time I saw the fish was 97. That's when I realized these things were out there, got interested, started doing my PhD. And then in 2005, the same club, like the same group of fishermen, caught the 646-pound fish. And so that's when I just asked the question that you've been asking, which is this the world's largest freshwater fish?
And how impressed were they by that fish?
They didn't realize it was the world's largest fish.
But were they saying to themselves, no, this is the biggest one we've ever heard of? Or they're like, oh, that's kind of what they're like?
No. So the guys who caught it, it's a team, 5 guys, and they were students on their summer break, like young guys, and they borrowed their uncle's boat, went out. You take turns, so there's like one lane where you can drop the net, and the fishermen take turns. It's a floating net, so you drop it, it floats down for like a kilometer. If you don't catch anything, you pull it back in. The next guy goes, next group goes. So these guys were young kids, like on their summer break from school, and they happen to catch this fish, and so the club had been keeping records of how big the fish were that they caught all the way back to like 1980.
Okay.
And so I just went back and looked at those records. I said, this is the biggest one they've ever caught.
I got you.
They didn't, to them, it was a big fish, but they're all 400, 500, 600 pounds.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And so they didn't realize. And so I sort of said, hey, is this the world's largest freshwater fish?
Like, is that, like you were asking, is this specific fish the world's largest?
The biggest freshwater fish that's ever been caught.
I got you.
And so you mentioned earlier, like the definitions. There's only one, for all of this work, there's only one definition or only one criteria, which is the fish has to spend its whole life in freshwater.
Yeah, but I don't know how fair that is. That's kind of one of the main reasons I wanted to ask you about it. So let me kind of throw you with it, for instance.
Sure.
Okay. When we were doing our fishing game cookbook, we had the fish broken out, saltwater, freshwater. And it came up with the question of salmon, right? And we debated back and forth. Is it freshwater, saltwater? My brother Danny studies salmon with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I said, hey, man, what do you think about a salmon? Is it freshwater or saltwater? And he said, it spends the bulk of its life in salt water, but it's born and it dies in fresh water. So if I had to put it somewhere, I would put it like those key moment. And
But
so
why?
he goes,
But why?
I would put the salmon in the freshwater section, which is what we did, by God.
But why do you have to choose? Why do you have to pick?
Because the cookbook's only, we didn't want to make a category that had like bull sharks, salmon, and striped bass, or I don't know, whatever the hell, American eels.
Yeah. So this, like, the criteria is just, it's just for I'm a research professor at the University of Nevada, Reno. So you guys like to obfuscate. No, but it's not.
Split hairs more than anybody in the world.
It's not splitting hairs. it's a simple criteria. That particular fish has had to spent its whole life in fresh water. That's the only criteria.
Okay, but how do you know one of them? I want to move on from this, but how do you know that one of them big ass cats didn't one day go down and get into brackish water?
Yeah. Well, that's what we study.
Okay, and what happened?
They don't.
Oh, all right, there you go. Corinne, I think the interview's over early. They just don't. They don't like brackish water.
Some fish do, but the point, or the sort of the work that I do, and the point of asking the question was that if you just ask, okay, what's the biggest freshwater fish? Then you have white sturgeon, beluga sturgeon in Europe that can get like 3,000 pounds. So,
what's the Great Lakes sturgeon?
Lake sturgeon. That
they just not contenders.
They don't get big enough, but they only freshwater. Yeah.
Okay, so they would count for you.
So Kootenai River in northern Idaho has a population of white sturgeon that does not go down to the ocean.
So does the Snake River.
Yeah, because of the dams. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's another. So there are some sturgeon that choose not to go to.
It's just their ecology.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so one of those could be a contender, or do you have to not because the species will go to saltwater?
No, just the fish. Yeah.
You're interested in the individual fish,
but as a way to learn about all these fish, like the reason why this is an interesting question. Like I didn't know what I was asking when I said, "Hey, is this the world's largest freshwater fish?" What makes it interesting is we don't know.
Yeah.
And we don't know anything about these fish. So there are probably 40 species of fish that get over 6 feet long or weigh more than 200 pounds in freshwater in the world. And there are over 15,000 freshwater fish. So you're talking like just a small number of fish that get that big.
Hit me in North America. Hit me with what we got.
Alligator gar, white sturgeon.
I'm sorry. Also, back up on the parameter. What is it? 6 feet in length, and what was the weight?
Or over 200 pounds.
So
it can be long
I got you. So
or,
either 6 feet long or over 200 pounds, and we got. Go ahead, alligator gar,
Mississippi American paddlefish, certain populations of white sturgeon, lake sturgeon.
Okay.
Some people say Colorado pike minnow used to get that big. They don't really anymore, but that's North America's largest minnow.
What about blue cats?
Blue cats and flathead get up to about 100. What's the record these days? I think the record's about 150 pounds.
So they don't break the 200 mark.
But you read like Mark Twain, or you read old accounts from the 1800s. There are accounts of catfish that big. You don't know what to believe.
Huck Finn looking at it there, laying there, and he says it's 200 pounds.
Yeah. What about the old tales about guys in the 1800s dragging white sturgeon out of the Columbia with teams of horses?
Oh yeah. That's true as far as I know. Yeah,
really.
I mean, white sturgeon. 15 feet.
But those are saltwater fish, though.
They're fish that don't spend their whole lives with freshwater. Yeah, they're an anadromous fish. They move back and forth. There are lots of fish like that. But the ones that move back and forth, they can get bigger because they typically, when fish are out in the ocean, generally they have access to more food and stuff.
Got it. They're able to utilize marine resources.
Yeah.
Okay. So go on the numbers.
Oh, so it's just a small number. I think that's it. So, I mean, there's...
I thought there was 15.
There are like 30 or 40 big fish all over the world.
Okay.
And we have in the U.S. we have five or six.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant we had 15 in the U.S.
That get really big.
Oh, so just a small little collection.
Yeah.
Let me... there's the thing I can't move on from because I just want to understand it. You know when you hear a crazy story, and you probably know this better, didn't some bull shark go way the hell up the... how far did the bull shark go up the Mississippi?
Isn't it like Illinois?
I had a book when I was a kid that had them in the Great Lakes. I think they're... I don't want to say something that's not true, but the book I had when I was little said that they made it all the way up to the Great Lakes.
So they'll go way up.
They will,
is there a thing like...
That's unusual.
Yeah, no, very unusual, right? But it's a physiology question.
Yeah.
If you look at a shark... That can go and spend, like at least an individual can go and spend presumably months in fresh water. Physiologically, like, could two of them go? Why can't two of them go up and reproduce in fresh water, or is it open that they maybe could, or like what winds up happening to them?
Bull sharks, as far as I know, don't breed in fresh water, so it is physiological, but I don't know why that is. They're very adaptable. They can live in salt water. They can live in fresh water. They don't breed in fresh water, as far as I know.
Well, yeah, there has to be some barrier because there's not reproducing populations of them
up in the Great Lakes or whatever. Yeah,
or wherever the hell, right? So there's some like reason why it doesn't work, but that's not well understood.
No, but you have another. So 3 of the largest freshwater fish are freshwater stingrays, which are related to sharks, and the species that I study the most is a species in Southeast Asia, get over 600 pounds, freshwater stingray, and it breeds in freshwater, so it's able to do that. Every fish is different.
Yep. And the fact that you can take, this has always puzzled me as well, is that you can take striped bass, which are, right, it's an anadromous fish, spend a lot of time in brackish water, can spawn in purely fresh water, but then you can take them one day and throw them into some reservoir, and they don't even change tune, right?
Yeah. I mean, some fish have the ability to.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's hard to understand how that could be right.
Yeah. We have I live in Nevada right now. We have lahont cutthroat trout. They can live in brackish water, and so that's actually like they get really big in Pyramid Lake near Reno, and that's actually what's one of the things that's kept them in that lake is that like invasive species haven't been able to get into the lake because it's brackish.
Got it.
So they're like rainbows, browns in the river that flows into the pyramid, but they can't survive in the brackish water.
Oh, so that's how they get it for themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
So
okay.
It works to some fish's advantage.
All right, so pick it back up. I can't remember where I left you. The hell's the biggest fish?
Yeah. So the book, it starts with the catch of the world record fish. And so what I've been working on for the last 20 years is just trying to travel all around the world, gather as much information as possible about these big fish. Because like you said, like 70% of them are in danger with extinction.
Yep.
So if some of them are like all the Mekong species are basically on the brink of extinction.
Really?
Yeah. And so my background is working in Southeast Asia. Mekong has like 7 or 8 really big species of freshwater fish, and then Mongolia, which has the world's largest trout species.
Yeah. What's that fish called?
Taimen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the Arapaima?
Arapaima's one, yeah.
That's one of them.
Yeah. So it's like a diverse assemblage of fish. Air-breathing Arapaima, in South America.
Sure.
South America has short-tailed stingray, which get up to like 500 pounds. So most people never heard of short-tailed river ray, but that's like
I've seen those.
That's one of the biggest fish
I've
out
seen
there.
in South America. I've seen a bunch of the big ass freshwater stingrays. Yeah.
And then big catfish, they can get up to like 400 or 500 pounds that migrate from the foothills of the Andes, and then they'll migrate all the way down to the Amazon estuary and all the way back, which is like several thousand kilometers.
Yeah. Does the Surubi catfish get up to 200?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, like in Argentina, or they're all over actually, but yeah, they'll get that big. Cool fish.
And how many does the Mekong have that get that hit the criteria?
Like 7 or 8. So giant freshwater stingray,
Smokes.
yeah, wow. Giant catfish, chow praya catfish, 7-striped barb, wallago catfish. A lot of them are catfish. Big carp, the world's largest carp species, which can get up to 10 feet long.
No.
Yeah.
What makes that river so productive? Like, what makes it so special?
It's a big river. No one really knows, because they should. If it just went by numbers of fish, then the Amazon should have more. But for whatever reason, the Mekong has the most, and it's like super productive. There's a giant lake in the Mekong called the Tonle Sap Lake, which is a huge, one of our Great Lakes, but it's in the dry season like 2 meters deep. So it's basically just a big flooded area that the fish all move into in the rainy season and feed and get big, and then they move back out to the river in the dry season.
Got it.
So no one knows for sure. Big tropical rivers with lots of different kinds of fish. You'd expect to have big fish too.
Yeah. So had you uncovered, since that work, have you uncovered one that tops 646 that hits the definition?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So the book ends with the catch in 2005. Or no, it starts with the catch in 2005 and then ends with the new record breaker.
And what is that?
Giant freshwater stingray.
So,
661 pounds.
Oh, barely.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
and where did it come out of?
In Cambodia. Yeah. And my favorite part of that story is that in 2005, that giant catfish was killed. Fair enough, but critically endangered species. So that catfish was killed and sold for meat. We were working in Thailand or in Cambodia this last year and working with the fishermen, and we made a deal with them that, hey, we want to tag this fish for research. And so when they caught it, they gave us a call. We went out, we're able to tag it, and we are following around right now. So we know where it is.
So I want to
cool.
back up on that catfish. In what form are they selling it? They're butchering it and just selling by the pound. I mean, not the pound, but you know what I mean, like by portions.
Yeah. In Thailand, for whatever reason, to back up a little bit, like in Thailand, the meat is very prized, and it's said to have certain qualities, long life, or I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah.
On those big catfish specifically?
Yeah.
Have you eaten them?
Yeah.
Are they good?
Tastes like catfish.
Oh, well,
yeah. I mean, yeah, they're good. I mean,
Okay.
But he can't tell. Someone told me it was actually like a tourism thing. Like it wasn't actually like a real traditional belief, that it was some part of a tourism campaign or something. I don't know.
I can see that.
But in Thailand, it's very expensive. So like we were working with fishermen up there. We did tag a few fish up there. One fish would sell for like $2,000, which, that's in like 1990s. So that's a lot of money. It felt like a lot of money at the time.
The equivalent of $2,000?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was like $20-$30 a kilo or something, or
just as fillets.
Yeah. So it would be butchered
Wow.
and then sold a lot of times to restaurants, or they'd even send it to restaurants like in Bangkok, or
No kidding.
like not local restaurants.
And the people buying it they care what it is.
Yeah, that's why it's worth so much.
I got
yeah.
it. It's not just like generic fish. It's like the big ass crazy catfish.
Yeah, but in Cambodia, so I actually kind of shifted work to Cambodia, because in Cambodia it doesn't have any special significance, and in fact people don't like it. So in Cambodia it was 50 cents a kilo.
Wow.
So and what I was doing is I was working with the fishermen. I would compensate them for the fish, whatever they could get market rate, and then tag it and release it so we could follow it.
Oh really? You'd buy it off them?
Yeah. So but in Cambodia I could do that, but in Thailand it was too expensive.
You'd burn your budget.
Yeah. So.
And then how much are those fish moving?
They migrate at least 600-700 kilometers. I mean, they're making big migrations. They'll move out of that big lake down into the Mekong and then way up into the Mekong.
Huh.
Are they spawning way up in the Mekong in finer water?
Yeah. So they'll find like that. It seems like they like rocky, like the Tonle Sap and the lower Mekong is all kind of silty, and they seems like they go up in these deep pools. The Mekong can be up to 250 feet deep, so really deep, and it seems like they like those deep pool areas.
Say that again.
250 feet deep. Yeah.
The Mekong River?
Yeah. So the Congo is over 700 feet deep. So some of these rivers.
True.
Yeah.
Really?
No, it's definitely true. Yeah. But the
I know.
Yeah. But the cool thing about the Mekong, I didn't even appreciate this. We started doing some filming in these deep pools last year.
Yeah.
So we'd send cameras down. You get down like 10 feet or like 20 feet, it's completely dark because the water's silty.
Yeah.
So you get down, like we tried scuba diving. That
Can't see shit.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just I'm always seeing the fish at the surface, and even when we're doing our research and stuff, we're always seeing these fish like they live in the total darkness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just didn't.
No, it's real
that didn't
interesting,
compute
man.
to me
It's
before
crazy.
we actually sent cameras down. We're like, oh man, and the fish are down there like doing their thing,
Just smelling and feeling.
Yeah.
And, can't see squat.
Uh-uh.
You ever? I'm guessing you never tried to noodle one of them big sons of bitches. Huh?
So we noodle.
You had a handful then, dude.
Have you ever done that?
No.
So I did it, like not in the Mekong, but in the U.S. And it's actually like it's like a real
Rodeo.
Yeah, like it's no. So I didn't. I just went out with people who knew how to do it.
Yeah.
But like you dive down, it's teams, 3-person teams a lot of times,
There you go.
and you dive down, and the fish grunt. They make a noise when you get close to them. So and you can't see anything. And so the fish grunt, and like usually they're under a rock or something, and the people, you get around it, and then one person agrees to stick their hand in the fish's mouth,
Mhm.
and then you just pull it out. But it's like a real. I mean, talking about wild cow milking, like
Yep.
it's like noodling. It's like a real.
Sure.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
It looks funny, but
it's not. But that's not practiced in. There's no version of that you found in the Mekong.
No. For most catfish, the easiest place to grab them is on the mouth. So even in the Mekong, like when we handle the fish, we just grab its lip.
Yep.
The Mekong giant catfish doesn't have any teeth. The Wells catfish in Europe, that's Europe's largest freshwater fish. It does have kind of teeth, and we also grab it by the mouth, but you'll get your
shred you up.
Yeah.
Does why do they want that big? Do they butcher those big stingrays, or is that just bycatch?
In the Mekong, Amazon's a little bit different. In the Mekong, everything is eaten.
Okay.
So it doesn't there's nothing that they catch that they don't eat. So yeah. So the stingray would be butchered. The crazy thing about the stingray is that like big, and this is just human. Part of it's like human nature. These big fish, people seem to have a reverence for, even if it's not like religious. You're around a fish that big, and it's pretty special. And so even though it's not illegal to catch the stingray, people will usually keep it pretty quiet.
Yep.
And like everything, like catch it at night, it gets butchered, and you see it in the market the next morning, but you don't actually. It was really hard to get information about that fish.
Got it. Like there's a sort of tacit acknowledgement that it's like you probably shouldn't have cut that one up.
Yeah, but like for my work, I get it. I work pretty much exclusively with fishermen who are fishing for food. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons we compensate the fishermen is because otherwise, why would they want to work with us? You know.
In Guyana, there's red-tail catfish.
Yeah, red tails. Yeah.
A couple times when I've been down there, like they'll kill that one and cook it.
Yeah.
The cerubies they'll kill and cook. But then there's one I wish you might know the name of it. There's a big dark one they call toro.
Jiao.
It's like that's it. Jiao. I forgot the other name. They thought maybe I would know it as toro, which is like from Spanish infusion. Jiao.
Mm-hmm.
They don't kill that one.
Yeah,
when we hooked one of those, it was just kind of no.
Yeah, those are cool fish.
They didn't want that one killed.
Yeah, huh? They're like more rare, so maybe there's
it was just kind of like we had all kinds of other fish.
Yeah,
they were just sort of like no, that's not one to. I mean, this thing was enormous.
Yeah, I mean, or maybe they don't taste good.
I don't know. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
They just kind of had a different. Like there's like a language barrier, so you can't really establish what it is. But there was
that was something.
Yeah, it was kind of like the same way. I don't want to use the word taboo. There's just things that would seem edible that they don't eat. The same way if you were walking around here and someone's like, "Why are you not eating that dog?" You'd be like, how do I even explain why we're not eating that dog?
Yeah.
You know, but this big ass catfish, that's just not.
Yeah. Well, and you bring it up like in Cambodia, there's the same feeling. So people feel like if they kill a giant catfish, and it's a Mekong giant catfish, it's one species.
Mm.
There's a belief that if they kill it, they'll get bad luck, and like it kind of is self-fulfilling. I've seen it a lot of times. Someone will catch one, and then within like a week, they'll have a death in the family, or something really bad will happen. And it's hard, it doesn't seem like that would really be actual bad luck, but they always associate if they actually do keep one of those fish.
Sure.
They always find something.
You're inviting trouble.
Yeah. And they like recognize that. And so we've actually started to see the fishermen in Cambodia, just with that one species, they'll release them on their own.
So what could you say is true? Is it always a different culprit, or if globally we're imperiling or globally we're damaging and potentially losing giant freshwater fish, is it just like a different enemy in every ecosystem, or are there general truths?
It's mainly dams.
Really?
So yeah, that because like overfishing very rarely causes extinctions. So you could get the population down really low, but with fish at least, it's very rare that you could like catch the last ones.
Yep.
It's just hard, like these big systems. So fishing is usually not the culprit in terms of extinction. It's
Yep.
usually something that changes
It can drive scarcity, but
Yeah.
it doesn't drive.
like the disappearance.
Yep,
And
yep.
so like with dams, it's blocking spawning habitat, changes water temperature, messes up their spawning queues. So you see this like the Chinese paddlefish, which is a fish that could get up to like 20 feet long, just went extinct like 2 years ago.
Oh, it did?
Because of
I didn't know that.
Three Gorges.
I mean, I didn't
dam.
know about the damn fish, but
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
So tell me about that fish then.
So Chinese paddlefish, one of two species of. Have you ever seen an American paddlefish?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they're cool, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so Chinese paddlefish was a predator. American paddlefish are like filter feeders.
Yep.
When they open up their mouths, it looks like a basking shark or something.
Yeah.
The Chinese paddlefish was a predator, more like a billfish, and it had like a sharp paddle, and it would use that paddle to hunt.
And it was actually going after catfish and whatever else.
Yeah, probably, carp, catfish, probably. And
Yeah.
Grew to 20 feet long.
yeah,
No kidding.
yeah. But the last one that was seen was like early 2000s.
So when they built that big ass dam,
They built two big dams, Gazuba and Three Gorges. Three
Yeah.
Gorges is the really big one. And those dams just made it impossible for the paddlefish to survive, to spawn. It must have blocked they couldn't access where they needed to spawn anymore. And
did someone point out this is a question I've had about the dams we've done on the dams we've done on the Columbia system and others, where was there someone that said, if you do that, that fish will be gone? Was that
Yeah.
a known thing?
I don't know. I wonder what people knew 100 years ago. We know that now. But,
Sure.
I mean,
No, I'm talking
like Three Gorges.
Well, no, I've asked that question many times around salmon. There was always a way that it was probably in people's back of the head. There's always a way people felt they could explain away ways in which it wasn't the end of salmon,
Yeah.
because it was going to be ladder, whatever. There was no one saying like, and yes, this will be the end of king salmon, or and yes, this will be the end of that run. They didn't put it like it wasn't laid out like that sort of arrangement.
Yeah, maybe it never is.
Yeah,
We used to have king salmon in Nevada, believe it or not.
Oh, and I didn't know that.
Yeah, we used to have runs that came all the way up the Snake.
Yeah, but with these newer dams in China,
It's
was
just
it
like
known that that they would blink this fish out?
the biologists know,
Yeah,
but
we
they're-
tend not to listen to those guys.
Yeah,
too much.
exactly.
Yeah.
When it comes to big construction
Just ask
projects,
the Washington Wildlife
they never get
Commission.
invited. They never get invited to the last meeting.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, you can laugh about it, but it's true. Like there are stronger interests at play.
Yeah.
But on the Mekong, this happened on the Columbia too. It's like what you really want. So I think salmon populations are like 10% of what they used to be on the Columbia or whatever. But Mekong is the same way. Like 2 million tons of fish produced by the Mekong River every year. So if you're going to build dams, like think about that, because they're so important.
Mm-hmm.
So that what you want is like not to be totally ignored, but just like, okay, hey, we won't build the worst ones. We won't build the ones that are going to collapse the fishery or cause extinctions of all these fish, whatever. So and my work, that's basically what I do, is just to try to provide information about all these fish so that like the worst dams aren't built.
So you can go in and say, here's this species of fish. Here's what its life history is. Here's what its habitat needs are. If you do this, here's the price you'll pay.
Yeah.
Do with it what you will.
Yeah, and that's happening right now. So in Cambodia, this world's largest stingray is just swimming around. It's actually in a small area that's protected by the local community. It's right between two of these big proposed dams where it lives.
Just stuck there.
Well, no, the dams aren't there. So it's just swimming around happy. I mean, it doesn't know any difference. And that's an area where hundreds of fish spawn. It supports the whole fishery for the Mekong River. And right now there's a debate. Do we build these dams or...
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
or protect the area. So the decisions that you're talking about, that's happening right now.
Where are they leaning? If you had to guess, if you had to crystal ball it.
The Cambodian government has said no dams before 2030.
Okay.
So that's good. It's good in the sense that there are always technology improves, alternatives
Yeah.
could come up. So it's as far as like that type of development decision, energy, it's always good if it happens in the future because things are always improving.
Yeah. Isn't it a funny kind of reverse colonialism that we have a little bit where we've really effectively developed our country and created this economic powerhouse and all this infrastructure and dams and the ability to generate so much electricity and be global players. And then you then go to the developing world and say, man, I'm here to tell you to not to do the things we did.
Yeah. Well, what?
Because you're going to lose your catfish.
No, yeah, exactly. No, but it feels that way.
Yeah.
But it's not don't do it.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, because I mean, I'm trying to think of an example in the U.S. I mean, we're starting to bring down some of our dams in the U.S. that are like the ones that don't generate very much electricity or that totally messed up the fishery.
Yeah, we're taking them down fast and we're putting them up.
Yeah. But we had our 100 years of, building a lot of good and, or I don't know, good and bad dams, whatever. But I think what the goal is in places that are still developing and building a lot of these dams is just don't using the best information that's out there, just try to make the best decision, maximize benefit, minimize cost.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Rather than like, hey, you can't do this.
Rather be that you can, and if you do it this way, you'll decrease the damage.
And anyway, like if, or biologists, if someone, it doesn't do much good to say you can't do this anyway. I mean, no one listens to just say, hey, you can't do this. You have to say why. You have to, I mean, fisheries are, everyone relies on fisheries there. So
they do like,
fish for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yeah.
Hey, I forgot I was going to tell you about the thing with freshwater, saltwater. Are you familiar with the Susitna River system in Alaska?
No.
So in like the Susitna flows out near Anchorage, so south central Alaska. There's this big river system, and very important, like big salmon runs, kings, like just everything, right? I realize I don't know if that river gets sockeyes. I should know. But king runs, silver runs, pinks, all this stuff goes up this river system. And someone, and I can't remember when, they know when it happened, someone moved northern pike into it. Okay. So, of course, northern pike are native to Alaska, and like the Yukon system has northern pike, but someone helped, at some point in time, someone helped pike into the Susitna. And there's the potential for it to be devastating to salmon, and they've really spread out. And like another thing with how in trouble kings are, kings spend extra time in fresh water. Kings spend an extra year in fresh water, so they remain they have a greater vulnerability to this new predatory fish. So there's a lot of interest in how far could the northern spread, right? The demographics on the population, how much damage might they ultimately do to the salmon stocks. Well, these northern pike started showing up in different adjacent river systems. And the idea was that people were continuing to move them around. But they can go to these other river systems and look at stable isotope compositions in the fish. And those fish are going into salt water, which no one thought they would do. They're going into salt water, being fine, and actually entering new river systems from salt water.
Northern pike
are going out into salt.
Yeah, I
Like
think blue catfish
wandering around and then shooting up new river systems.
I mean, blue catfish will do that too, won't they?
I didn't know.
I feel like I've heard of that as well.
Then you're left to be like, well, how in the hell did it get in here? Must be those rednecks doing bucket biology.
That good old
and it
bucket
turns out
biology.
that fish is like, whatever, it gets, I was asking Danny, I was like, so he goes, I don't know what the fish is trying to do. I don't know what it wants to do, but it does it.
Yeah.
Right?
They spread. I mean, things spread, man. When you remind me of the story in the Ebro River in Spain. So a German fisherman took over like 30 baby Wells catfish in his VW Bug in the 70s and put them in the Ebro River in Spain where they're not native. And we were there several years ago, and it's now 90% of the biomass of fish in that river are Wells catfish. Just enormous.
Yeah, that's one of the big ones, isn't it?
They get really big.
Well, I mean,
they're big.
You don't need to go that far because the Great Lakes.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
if you go back in time on the Great Lakes, there was like a sturgeon fishery, whitefish, right?
Yeah.
Dominant species, man.
Yeah.
Dominant all the way down in Chicago, like dominant species, and it's just been it's been rewritten and rewritten. Carp were put in there because they thought they'd catch on as food, and then all the accidental, all the intentional. It's an experimental aquarium.
Yeah. On the Ebro too, they were introduced there, and people, it's catch and release. Like, it's not catch and release by law, but all the anglers practice catch and release. So like no one's eating them either.
Yeah.
The Spanish people apparently don't like to eat them. The recreational anglers just like to catch and release. So that's why there's like 90% of them are Wells. You get these weird situations.
Yeah, now and then they'll make it that it's like with certain invasives, they'll make it that it's illegal to
keep it,
to return it alive. You know, it's illegal to have. It's illegal to put it back. But I don't want to name his name. But when they got lake trout in Lake Yellowstone, and they're very worried about the cutthroats in there. So they're encouraging everybody to go, and they wanted people to catch them and kill them. It was illegal to turn one back alive. I had a buddy that was always down there fishing. And he's talking about letting them go. I'm like, oh, why you what do you mean you're letting them go? You're not supposed to let them go. He says, man, I love fishing there. I don't want to damage that fishery. It's just like people just get whatever. They get selfish.
We had a thing a couple of years ago or 3 years ago, maybe it was a little longer than that, when all those Atlantic salmon got out of that net pen up in the San Juans.
Yeah, people had a shit fit about that.
Oh, man, and people were up there just wailing on them things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was if you catch one, kill it sort of thing.
Were they easy to catch?
From what I heard, I didn't go up there. I can't say firsthand, but from what I heard,
no one's catching them anymore. They all died or got caught.
I haven't heard of one.
They didn't take hold.
Yeah, I haven't heard of one. We have a similar thing going on in Eastern Washington with northern pike in Lake Roosevelt. And I've heard in a couple other places too.
It's carp in Australia.
Where it's
carp.
Yeah,
where
absolutely.
It's kill 'em on site. Northies and it's Roosevelt and Banks Lake in Eastern Washington. That was what I was told.
Arapaima. That's a cool fish.
Yeah. And that's something.
Are they all right?
They weren't, but it's sort of a success story because they don't move that much.
Yep.
And so it used to be a traditional, and still is, but they have to come up for air. So it's a traditional like spear fishing, harpoon.
Yep. The boys I was with, like their dads, that was a market fish, trade fish. They'd kill them and salt them.
Yeah.
For very small amounts of money. And they just don't know.
Yeah.
Dude, that's got to be a tough fish. Dude, they make cowboy boots out of them things, skins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They would get a dart and they would get a prong into it and then just basically handle it like a whale.
Really?
With a line.
Just, the goal is to get it tethered, to get a toggle in it. And then you just, whatever.
Nantucket sleigh ride.
Just slowly, you just slowly.
Yeah.
Once you get a rope on it, it's just a drawn out procedure.
You were in Guyana?
Yeah, but no, I never did it. But I'm just saying they were telling me about how they
yeah.
would do it. They would basically it'd come up or you'd find it basking, and like the first order of business was to get a toggle in it with some rope, and then it would begin the process.
Yeah, the species in Guyana. So there are a couple like. Scientists recently figured out there's more than one species, and the species in Guyana is apparently a lot like fatter than the other species. And one biologist who works down there says that he actually thinks that they'll get bigger, like a 700-pounder or something. He thinks that that's the biggest.
This is going to take the record.
Yeah, but that's a thing with. I mean, this whole project. I always assume like there are no rules. Like you could fish. The fish can be caught. However, like the only thing is like. Okay, where was it caught? How big was it? I always assumed that I would hear from people, biologists and fishermen all over the world with stories of bigger fish. Like I didn't think it was going to be me going out and trying to gather information.
And
I thought
logging the fish.
Yeah, I thought there would just be, fishermen like talking about catching big fish. I thought that it would be like reported, but there just aren't. They just don't get that big.
Remind me again right now, the current freshwater record is
661 pounds.
you know what you ought to do, man? Why don't you just get like a little pot of money and start like a global derby?
Yeah. So with stingray, we're like, I'm 99% sure that they get up to maybe 1,000 pounds. So it's just what we were able to record.
Yeah.
And luckily able to like tag, and now we're getting information about it. But I'm pretty sure that they get a lot bigger. What are the chances the one that we found is the single biggest fish? It's not. So
No.
Yeah.
There's no way. Well, no. That's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are most of the biggest fish females that you're seeing?
Yeah.
Or?
The
Okay.
stingrays. Yeah. And apparently that's the same with marlin as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The biggest stingrays are females.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They typically anchor themselves to the bottom as well.
When you're fishing for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you hook into one and it'll go down to the bottom, and basically fishing for it is trying to get it off the bottom.
Yep.
And then it also weighs 600 pounds. But
There've been many times where we nearly cut a snag, and it turned out to be a stingray.
yeah, I've had both.
Yeah.
Where I thought it was a snag and it was a stingray. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always cool when you
Yes.
you just have something that's you just cussing and then it starts to move.
Yeah, dragging the boat. Yep.
You don't think there's a great big white sturgeon up there, landlocked up there in the upper,
I'm gonna go.
up in the snake somewhere?
I'm curious. Yeah.
Yeah.
The global big fish derby,
Dude,
man.
my money, and I'm biased, but my money's on a good old American white sturgeon.
Yeah, I feel it.
Because I'm a good American.
Well, the other thing is too is all these records and stuff. Like if you start a derby, then you have to have rules.
Yeah, why don't we talk
Well,
to
we
the
talked
IGFA about that?
Talk about that. Lord hope a bloodsucker doesn't latch on to your world record sturgeon.
No,
Yeah.
but so
Heaven forbid there's a lamprey on it.
IGFA, all of the records, so they're much smaller than like the largest documented fish.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like
You know,
with
like,
stingray,
the biggest white-tailed deer.
Yeah.
He wasn't killed by a hunter.
Yeah. And so IGFA
That's a
record
good
for
point, man.
giant catfish, stingray, arapaima, it's all much smaller than
Oh sure.
the largest fish because you have to follow all the rules. So
Oh yeah, it's just way different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the biggest whatever, it's like it wound up being that it just washed up on the beach one day,
yeah.
dead or whatever. You know.
Which from a like biology perspective is fascinating. So like that's
Yeah. You're okay. by it.
for my work I include that, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't work for a derby.
So your book came out when?
Book was published April 25th.
How's it been going? It's been fun.
Good, yeah. It's great.
Did you do book events?
Yeah, still doing them. Yeah. It's been great. It took over 10 years to write.
Did you write it? Really?
It wasn't a quick.
Well, 10 years ago, did you know you were writing it?
10 years ago, I knew I was interested. Yeah, I worked with Stefan Lovgren, who's a writer with National Geographic, and we've worked together forever. And so we wrote the proposal in 2011 and then spent the last 10 years just traveling around and gathering information.
But here, was the publisher ever kind of be like, hey, what happened to the book?
There were a couple publishers.
Oh, okay. I got it.
Yeah.
So, but it wound up landing with University of Nevada Press,
which is where I work. Yeah.
which is where you work.
Yeah.
That's great.
So it all worked out in the end. And we didn't know. I mean, started out asking what question is, what fish is the world's largest? And
Yeah.
it wasn't until this last year that we found a larger one. So
Yeah. But like I said, there's a question mark that lingers over.
Oh yeah. There always will be. And
Yeah.
it's what I'm gonna it's what I do, so I'm gonna keep working on it. And
But if you let me ask you this. If you had and you kind of answered it, but if you had to guess, if you had to guess, do you think the record will stay with that stingray species, or do you think that, or do you got a feeling like the catfish is going to blow it away, or what?
I want the record to be broken, like because that means the fish are healthy.
But are you betting on the stingrays, or are you betting on some other thing? Like just from your hunch, right?
Come on.
Like Tommy's betting on white sturgeon.
I'm betting on white sturgeon. I'm going all in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the stingray, but
You do.
so they're like, yeah, there's these stories from way back when of much bigger fish.
Dude. Yeah, divers from Bonneville Dam coming up with these stories of these dudes. These 20-foot sturgeon is bigger around as VW bugs. I grew up with those stories, man.
Well, and those big catfish eating people.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like Loch Ness Monster.
Come on, don't be come on.
But I'm saying if any, like you hear so many stories.
Yeah.
When those stories turn out to be true, maybe not Loch Ness Monster, but whatever, like that's good. Like that's interesting. It very, very rarely turns out that those stories are true, but
Yeah.
I hope someone catches a bigger fish next year. It's like if you've been to the Mekong, millions of people fish in that river. You would never believe in a million years that the largest fish could occur there because of the amount of fishing and other stuff that's going on there.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's still there is great. I hope there's a bigger fish out there. I hope the Arapaima in South America, I hope they catch a 700-pounder next year.
So I got one last question for you before plugging your book again. If you go to the Mekong River and I take a crawler, leaf worm, put it on a hook, flick it out, am I probably going to get hit fast?
No.
Oh, I'm not?
No. In the Amazon.
I don't mean by the giant catfish.
No,
I mean just a hit in general.
No. So
Really?
yeah,
So you can drown a worm and not get a hit.
there's so many people fishing.
Yeah.
So like I went on the river one day and for like 5 miles, I counted 1,000 nets.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying about how it's incredible that these fish are still.
They got a
So they're-
piranha type species there?
No.
They don't
So
have a
yeah,
piranha?
yeah. South America, it's still. I mean, they have. I forget what that species, but the piranha. Like, if you try fishing in South America, like piranha in a second has been my experience.
Sure, yeah.
Um,
You throw that bait out there, you're going to get a hit.
Yeah, yeah. Because in South America, in a lot of places, people are still selective about what fish they're eating. They want a big fish, certain kinds of fish.
Yeah.
In Mekong, it's like, I mean, you catch a fish like that, that's food.
I was in the Philippines one time and we were at a fish market and I was expressing to the person I was with that like how could all the fish in the fish market be so small? Meaning, I mean, it's all fish the size of your finger, right? And squid. And he said, yeah, it's like this. He goes, then you'll come in here tomorrow and there'll be a 40-foot whale shark laying there. He goes, it's just what gets caught, man.
Just
no,
protein.
he's like, it's what gets caught.
Wow.
If it gets caught, it's going to be here in this fish market.
Yeah.
Selectivity is,
We work a lot with local people fishing, and we monitor. For the last 3 years, we've recorded every single thing that they catch in their fish trap. And these fish traps, so it's an arrow-shaped trap made out of bamboo that can be like 1 kilometer long. So it's do you know like a fyke net?
yep.
So it's a big wall with an arrow. So the fish they hit the wall, they swim along.
It's aimed downstream.
It's in the lake.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
Okay,
but the lake drains. So yeah, the fish have to move as the lake drains. And they catch like 120 different kinds of fish, and each trap. They're like 10,000 of these traps. Each trap catches a ton of fish a year. So it's like
just so productive. Though.
yeah,
know.
it's crazy. But it's very much. You just reminded me of that because they like we some days they'll catch 1,000 of one kind of fish, and then the next day it's something. It's like we're trying to understand what's going on, but
Yeah.
it is kind of
like
crazy.
trying to understand the system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like why?
Yeah. Well, if you're wondering why, you'll find a lot out. You see that, Tommy? That's
I like
hosting.
that.
You'll find a lot out in Chasing Giants in Search of the World's Largest Freshwater Fish by Zeb Hogan with Stefan Lovgren, hosting National Geographic's Monster Fish, which covers as well, the show, right? Covers a lot of the material in here, but
Covers
like
the
most
show,
things, if you really want to find
records.
out, read the damn book.
Biology. Yeah.
It's got a big photo section in the middle. Normally, I didn't get around to it. Normally, when we have people on, I read their book. I'm pretty good about it, but I didn't read your book yet. I just wanted to tell you so you didn't have to think.
Now you have a copy.
I didn't want you to talk to someone later and be like, that son of a bitch never even read the book. I could tell. I'm just telling you I never read the book. I'd like to. It looks good. It's a beautiful book, color photography. Chasing Giants in Search of the World's Largest Freshwater Fish. Anywhere books are sold. Buy it
books are sold.
online.
Yep.
Good luck, man. I appreciate you coming out.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tommy.
You're welcome.
And
Thank
boys.
Appreciate it.
Head down to the First Light store.
We'll take care of you.
Haley, Idaho. You'll know them when you see them.
Dude, this place is crazy. I'm jealous of the mannequins.
Plug it a little bit more, mate.
Huh?
Plug it for us.
What
Plug
do
it for us.
What do you want me to talk about? This
Well,
place
you
really
got 45
is,
seconds.
It really is a destination. It's incredible. When you walk through the front door, there's a great big giant bull laying there with 3 years worth of sheds
Yep.
laying next to it. That's
fine.
admirable, dude.
That's my bull from
There's
2020.
also a rifle sitting right inside the
There's
door.
a rifle in
It's a
there.
fake one.
Oh, it's fake.
Yeah.
Steve Rinella
Blaine
himself's
County. We can't be
father's
too.
I was like,
backpacks
you
over
could just
here
come
on
in
the
here and be
wall.
like, stick them up. But
I didn't
it's
know
fake.
this was the women's section. That explains why none of them clothes look to fit me.
Well, maybe one day.
I think Tommy's pushing for a job down here.
Hey,
I'm
man,
sorry.
he's
Never know,
hired.
man. I might be politicking my way into something. Oh, my way in.
The old
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for coming on, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us,
Thank
man.
you.
Yeah.